Have you ever watched two brilliant doctors debate cholesterol, and by the end of the conversation, you felt less informed than when you started? One doctor confidently says, forget LDL cholesterol. ApoB is the best marker we have. Another responds, actually, the ApoB to ApoA1 ratio predicts heart disease even better. So now you're thinking, hold on, I just learned what ApoB was. You're telling me I need another alphabet soup test? If that's you, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand not only what these tests measure, but why two smart doctors can both be right at the same time. And once you understand that, you'll never look at a cholesterol panel the same way again. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Dr. Tony Hampton. One thing I've learned after taking care of patients for decades is this: people don't need more numbers. They need more understanding. Lab tests are like clues at a crime scene. One clue rarely solves the mystery, but when you put several clues together, the story begins to make sense. Today we're going to decode one of the most misunderstood stories in cardiovascular medicine. Let's imagine it's Monday morning in downtown Chicago. Now, if you've ever driven through downtown during rush hour, first, my condolences. Second, congratulations. You've already completed half of today's lesson, because cardiovascular disease is a lot like Chicago traffic. And if you've driven here during construction season, well, that's probably stage 4 cardiovascular disease. Every morning, thousands of delivery trucks enter the city. Some are carrying groceries. Some are carrying furniture. Some are carrying building supplies. The interesting part isn't necessarily what's inside each truck. The first thing city planners care about is how many trucks are on the road, because every additional truck increases congestion. Keep that picture in your mind, because that's exactly where ApoB comes in. Every potentially artery-clogging lipoprotein particle carries exactly one ApoB molecule. Think of ApoB as the license plate attached to every delivery truck. One truck, one license plate, one ApoB. That means when we measure ApoB, we're essentially counting the number of cholesterol-carrying vehicles traveling through your bloodstream. Notice what we're not measuring. We're not measuring how much cholesterol each truck is carrying. We're simply counting how many trucks are driving around town. That's a very important distinction. Imagine one truck is carrying 10 boxes. Another truck is carrying 100 boxes. Different cargo, same number of trucks. Likewise, some cholesterol particles are packed with cholesterol. Others carry much less, but each one still has only one ApoB. That's why ApoB often provides information that LDL cholesterol alone can't. LDL cholesterol measures the cargo. ApoB measures the number of vehicles carrying that cargo. Sometimes those numbers tell the same story. Sometimes they tell completely different stories. This difference becomes especially important in people with insulin resistance. If you've watched my channel for a while, you already know insulin resistance is one of my favorite topics. Not because I enjoy talking about disease, but because I enjoy helping people reverse it. Insulin resistance develops. Your liver often produces a large number of cholesterol particles. Each particle may carry less cholesterol. So your LDL cholesterol might not look terribly alarming, but your ApoB can still be elevated because there are simply more particles circulating. Think about that. Would you rather have 50 delivery trucks on your street or 100? Even if each truck is carrying a smaller load, more vehicles usually mean more traffic. Likewise, more cholesterol particles create more opportunities for those particles to enter the artery wall. That's one reason ApoB has become such an important marker. At this point, you might be thinking, well, that's easy. Case closed. ApoB wins. Not so fast, because every good mystery introduces another character. And that character's name is ApoA1. Let's go back to Chicago. Imagine those delivery trucks keep coming. Traffic gets heavier. Construction slows everything down. A fender bender blocks 2 lanes. Someone double parks because apparently hazard lights makes everything legal. Then something wonderful happens. 2 trucks arrive. Traffic officers show up. Street sweepers get to work. Emergency crews clear accidents. These vehicles aren't adding congestion. They're helping the city recover from it. That's the picture I want you to have when you think about ApoA1. ApoA1 is the major protein found on HDL particles. HDL is often called good cholesterol. Now, I don't love calling cholesterol good or bad. That's a little like calling a hammer good and a screwdriver bad. They're simply different tools with different jobs. HDL particles participate in reverse cholesterol transport, helping move cholesterol away from tissues and back toward the liver. They also have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. One quick point that's worth mentioning. Scientists are still learning about HDL function. Having more ApoA1 generally reflects more HDL-related particles, but it doesn't tell us everything about how well those particles are working. Think of it this way. Owning 10 tow trucks is great, but if none of them start, you're still going to have a traffic problem. Fortunately, for today's discussion, ApoA1 remains a very useful way of estimating your cleanup crew. Now we're ready to ask a completely different question. Suppose city number 1 has 1,000 delivery trucks and 500 cleanup vehicles. City number 2 has 1,000 delivery trucks, but only 100 cleanup vehicles. Which city would you rather drive through? Exactly. The number of delivery trucks never changed. The balance changed. And that's where the ApoB to ApoA1 ratio enters the conversation. It isn't asking how many delivery trucks do I have. It's asking, compared to my cleanup crew, how crowded are the roads? And believe it or not, that simple difference explains why this ratio has attracted so much attention from researchers around the world. So why do scientists get so excited about the ApoB to ApoA1 ratio? Because researchers who study thousands or even hundreds of thousands of patients are usually asking a very different question than the one I asked sitting across from a patient in my exam room. Researchers ask, who is most likely to have a heart attack? Clinicians ask, what should I do to lower this patient's risk? Those sound similar, but they're actually two completely different questions. And understanding that difference unlocks this entire conversation. Let's go back to Chicago one more time. Imagine I'm the mayor. Someone asks, Dr. Hampton, which neighborhoods are more likely to experience traffic jams tomorrow morning? To answer that question, I'd want lots of information. How many delivery trucks are expected? How many tow trucks are available? Are there construction projects? Is there a Cubs game tonight? Is President Obama coming to town? Around here, one motorcade can turn your 10-minute drive into a spiritual growth experience. The more information I have, the better I can predict traffic. Now imagine someone asks a different question. Traffic is already backed up for miles. What's the very first thing we should fix? Now I'm no longer predicting, I'm managing. Maybe we reduce the number of trucks. Maybe we open another lane. Maybe we reroute traffic. The question changed, so the answer changed. Medicine works exactly the same way. One reason the ApoB to ApoA1 ratio performs so well in large epidemiologic studies is because it captures balance. It considers both the number of potentially harmful particles and the body's HDL-related protective system. That combination often improves risk prediction across large populations. But when I'm following one individual patient over time, trying to see whether we've reduced the number of atherogenic particles, ApoB becomes incredibly useful because it's direct. If ApoB drops from 130 to 75, I know the number of delivery trucks has gone down. That's meaningful. Now suppose the ratio improves. Wonderful. But why? Did ApoB decrease? Did ApoA1 increase? Did both change? The ratio tells me the relationship improved, but ApoB tells me the traffic improved. Those aren't competing ideas. They're complementary. And I think this is where social media sometimes gets us into trouble. We love asking, which test is best? Medicine usually asks a better question. What does this test add that I didn't already know? That's a completely different mindset. Let's put the puzzle together. LDL cholesterol answers how much cholesterol is being carried. ApoB answers how many potentially harmful particles are circulating. The ApoB to ApoA1 ratio answers what's the balance between potentially harmful particles and HDL-related protective particles. And one of my personal favorites, the triglyceride to HDL ratio, often gives us clues about insulin resistance and overall metabolic health. Each marker contributes something unique. None of them should be expected to answer every question by themselves. Imagine trying to judge an entire football game by looking only at the final score. You'd miss the turnovers, the penalties, the time of possession, the injuries, the strategy. The score matters, but it is not the whole story. Your cholesterol labs are exactly the same. So, If I were your doctor, what would I do? First, I wouldn't obsess over a single number. I'd look at the entire metabolic picture. I'd consider your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your triglycerides, your HDL, your ApoB, your family history, whether you smoke, whether you have diabetes, and when appropriate, whether a coronary artery calcium score adds useful information. Second, if I could only order one advanced lipid marker, ApoB would be an outstanding choice because it directly reflects the number of potentially atherogenic particles. Third, if your laboratory also reports the ApoB to ApoA1 ratio, I'd happily look at that too. Not because it's replacing ApoB, but because it's giving me another valuable perspective. The goal isn't choosing sides. The goal is understanding the patient sitting in front of me. Now let me tell you something that's even more important than any cholesterol marker we've discussed today. None of these tests cause heart disease. They're messengers. Think of smoke rising from a house. You can measure how thick the smoke is. You can measure how fast it's moving. You can calculate which direction the wind is blowing. But eventually, you have to ask, what's causing the fire? That's the question I care about most. That's why I teach my NEST framework. Nutrition, exercise, sleep and less stress, how you think. When you improve your nutrition, become more physically active, sleep consistently, reduce chronic stress, avoid tobacco, and improve insulin sensitivity, you're doing something far more powerful than chasing a prettier lab report. You're changing the biology that created the abnormal lab in the first place. That's root cause medicine, and that's where lasting health begins. So, is ApoB important? Absolutely. Is the ApoB to ApoA1 ratio valuable? Absolutely. Should one replace the other? I don't believe so. I believe they answer different questions. One helps us estimate particle burden, the other helps us understand balance. And together, they paint a richer picture of cardiovascular risk. I'll leave you with this. The most important cholesterol test isn't necessarily the one that predicts your future most accurately. It's the one that motivates you to improve your future. Because the real goal isn't simply lowering ApoB or improving a ratio. The real goal is building a healthier body. One meal, one walk, one night's sleep, one healthy choice at a time. And if this video helps simplify one of the most confusing topics in preventive cardiology, share it with someone who's trying to make sense of their cholesterol results. As always, take care of yourself and keep protecting your nest.